Okay, this is probably, well, definitely going to start off unlisted, although a lot of what I unlist, I eventually release. I just want to process what happened yesterday. Um, and I should be rejoicing, but it's got some reservations, and it reminds me of a Mary Knight video, a social worker, incest survivor, SRA discloser, documentary maker. But she made a documentary of coming to terms with her father, her abuser, one of them. And, midway through the documentary, she was saying, "Oh, I understand." And he was abused and, kind of almost like he couldn't help it. And then, but by the end of it, she was like, "No, I didn't deserve what you did to me with your trauma." And I want to reiterate that most survivors of abuse do not go on to be abusers. The percentage that do is very small, but catastrophic, because most abusers will have approximately 150 victims in their lifetime. So, like the good news part, the fuzzy wuzzy part was uh, I've got four sisters, only three surviving, one, I believe, murdered in 2015. I've got two younger sisters. The very youngest one has everything, the farm and all the rest of it, the glory and the fake golden child status. There's another younger one who's just about 3 years, 2 years, 8 months younger than me. And, I was very protective of her growing up and present for her in crisis times of her life. She dropped out of school with stress alopecia. My father broke her spirit with this thing of horses, where he would overface us, where he would, like, no matter how high you jumped, he'd want you to jump higher, or no matter how many risks you took, he'd want you to take more. It was quite sadistic, really. But with the two younger sisters of mine, one of them overcame the terrorization and inherited everything and went on to represent Ireland. And her son is now an international show jumping elite athlete. But the other one, my father sufficiently broke her spirit in that she refused to compete anymore. She just said she would take a back seat and do the flat work and the schooling and the sort of quiet work behind the scenes, because in terms of fear, torture, he had broken her, and to myself to some degree as well. So anyway, that's a long introduction, but she and I have only spoken twice in at least 25 years, and that was at funerals. And we didn't even talk one on one at those funerals, but we had connections. It's like we both saw something that was bizarre or so off it was funny. There's a sense of humor, dark humor, that you acquire when you live in tragedy, and she and I both connected on that level, particularly around my sister Fiona's death and wake and funeral. But other than that, we have hardly spoken for 25 years. And there was a lot of bitterness because when my younger sister ran my second younger sister out of the farm and back to England, my dad did a deal with her, a secret deal, which is you pretend to sell the bungalow to Anne Marie for me and Mummy to retire in, and in return we'll give Anne Marie the farm for nothing other than a retirement bungalow over the road. And we'll con Angie into believing we're giving her 4 acres, and that'll keep her mouth shut. And Kathy and Fiona can just, like, just whatever. But the secret deal my dad did with Sharon was we'll pretend Anne-Marie's bought the bungalow for me and Mummy to retire in, but you don't have to give us the deeds and it'll be yours when we die. So, and I still believe that was wrong. Sharon says, oh, look what I could have earned in rent. Like, she got paid market value 25 years ago for the bungalow by Phil and Emery. Really, it was Peter and John Gallagher who had to get the mortgage because Phil and Emery couldn't. But ultimately, Phil and Emery bought the bungalow in exchange for inheriting, very, very valuable 50-acre equestrian centre. But Kathy, Fiona, and I were left in the dark in terms of, even though Sharon got paid the guts of 90 grand, the acre of land was originally gifted. The bridging loan before she got a mortgage was facilitated by my mother. The Symphonium proceeds went into improving the bungalow. So much help was given. Even if Sharon had only got 50 grand for the bungalow 25 years ago, she would have been doing okay, except for not if you compare it to with Anne Marie, who had ousted her, as well as me, and bullied Kathy and Fiona. Such a mess. But anyway, so she came home a few weeks ago to get the bungalow ready to sell again. Probably, I don't know, $250,000, I don't know. And I called up there. She sent a message via someone if I wanted anything belonging to our parents to make arrangements. So I called up there, and then she was like, no, I didn't mean just call up here, or Anne-Marie's going to go ballistic at me. Like, what right is Anne-Marie to go ballistic at anybody for calling to our parents' home, which is not Anne-Marie's? Like, who died and made her God, or Hitler? Sorry, no root of bitterness. Anyway, so I called up. She panicked a bit. I didn't recognize her. We haven't spoken for 25 years. She's gone completely grey, and I just didn't recognize her, either her voice or her appearance. And so we had this highly charged meeting. That was about 2 weeks ago, two and a half weeks ago, and that she was actually a little bit abusive. I completely went into shock because I just didn't. It was just horrific. I didn't recognize my sister, and then I was trying to explain to her, you may feel hard done by compared to Anne-Marie, but if you look at Kathy, Fiona, and I, we got the fucking short end of the stick, and we suffered more than you and Anne-Marie ever could imagine. But we didn't come to blows, but it was quite traumatic. And she said, if you come up again, you need to give me forewarning through any of your children. So I didn't bother, and my son, one of my children, went up, but she had beautifully. She's very she's like a Virgo. She's not. She's a Scorpio, but she's so uh, organized and logical and methodical. She has unpacked 95 years of our father's life and packaged it all up and directed it towards whichever daughter it belongs to. And mine included weirdness. Like, I don't know why my father's house contained my first divorce papers, my original birth cert, my journalism certificates, the only surviving photograph of my second wedding. There were some really strange things, but which I wonder if my father lifted from my own home. But I can only that can only be a conspiracy theory at this time. But the point is, my sister Sharon directed all those things back to me, including photographs and things that interest me, like my father being inducted as Baron Nicholas of Dungarvan at Caldecott Castle in 1973, and things like that. So some valuable. So the bottom line is, my son went up, and she directed more things to me that meant something to me, that wasn't about any value. Well, some of them are valuable, but it was about this means something to me. And then my son said she was going back approximately this weekend, and I just all week I tried to pluck up the courage to go, and I just felt, and I don't know if I'm being I don't even know what the word is, but like I felt like I needed to go and say thank you for dismantling, our parents' home and directing things where they should go. And so I went, and I said my thank yous, and I said, "Can I give you a hug?" And she said yes. And I gave her a hug, and I said, "I love you, and I always will." And to my amazement, she replied in this hug, "I love you too. It's just we can't spend time together. It's too toxic. It's not good for my health." And I just responded, "I understand." Because narcissistic, abusive parents will spend decades pitting the children against each other. They will make them part of the toxic family of origin. So I didn't even try to say, "Oh, we can overcome this," or blah blah blah. It was like so I let it go that she got, because it's all relative. I let it go that she got paid market value for the house 25 years ago, and now she gets to sell it again and still feel hard done by. I let it go. Many hurtful things I let go. And what was precious to me, and this is where I get the thing about, because I get really annoyed with Christians saying you have to forgive your abusers. Otherwise, like, forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Like, if you don't forgive, you're not forgiven. Like, they'll stop with all that manipulation. But I don't forget what she's done, which is not as bad as what the younger one, the golden child, has done, but it's still a bit naughty. It's definitely naughty. And she still said a couple of supercilious things like, "Oh, I keep my conscience clear and I leave everybody else to do that for themselves." You know, it's like, no, your conscience shouldn't be clear because you've done some fuck awful shit, to be honest. But what I'm left with at the moment, and I hope I don't do a correction in a year of saying I was just being codependent again or gaslit again or whatever the terminology might be. But the joy for me yesterday was, and here's what was powerful, because when I get abused or rejected by the family, what I used to do was go into child alters, so helplessness, victim mode. And what happened with this sister, who's 2 years, 8 months younger than me, and who I cared for hugely, like literally, my parents went to Canada or New York or something and left me in charge of her, at a very young age, in charge of the two little ones. But particularly Sharon, like, it was Anne Marie when they went to Canada. Because Sharon and I, we had an account to have school lunches in Bradford on Avon every lunchtime, and there was somebody came and cleaned, and but I was in charge. Like it was weird, weird, weird. I don't know where. Emery must have been farmed out to one of them as being too young for me to mind, but I was left minding Sharon. And by then, Kathy was gone, Fiona was gone. And we did love it. We used to have double egg and chips or whatever. It was quite wonderful having this cafe lunch every day. But it's like you don't stop and think, like, okay, actually, your parents have gone to another continent and left you home alone. They may have arranged an account for you to get a cooked lunch. They may have arranged somebody to clean, but they fucking left you home alone. When you just realizing that. But so anyway, I let it go. The stuff about property and money and slander um, and I didn't go into one of my child. That's the point I was trying to make. I didn't go into one of my child alters, although I had the week before when she shouted at me when I stumbled upon her and didn't recognise her, and then she shouted at me. I did go into a child altar, but in the 10 days that intervened, um, I managed to grow up or access the older part of myself and think, all right, I'm her bigger sister, and I want to go and just comfort her. So I did that, and I'm proud of that. I'm proud of that because I didn't go up with a rejection spirit. I didn't go up with a fearful, oh, please don't shout at me. Oh, you're so mean. No, I didn't. I went up and I said, you know, thank you for dismantling our parents' home and uh, meticulously distributing things that mean a lot to me and are quite important, like my birth certificate. um, but more important than that, photographs and documents, sentimental things. And I just said, look, I love you, and can I give you a hug? And I was amazed. She said yes, and she seemed so tiny, even though she's younger than me. She seems so tiny and frail. And then, like I said, the bonus was her saying she loved me too. And so I pray at this time that I'm not gaslit or self-delusional or magical thinking, or I should send this to crappy childhood fairy. I pray that it actually took ground from the enemy in the kingdom of God. That we at least acknowledged, even if we have had such a horrific, intergenerationally abusive experience that we acknowledge it's toxic to even attempt to share space, but the love, I believe, love covers a multitude of sins. And so, even though today I'm still a bit emotionally paralyzed, I believe the devil got a kick in the balls yesterday. Right, I'll share this unlisted just with right. Yeah, I'm still protective of her. I still don't want to hurt her feelings. I still don't want to breach her privacy. I still don't want to offend my family. So I'll share this with those that understand. And maybe later I'll get the courage to go public. God bless people. Please check the links. Thank you.